everyone, welcome to the tour of my craft room. I wanted to give you a look into my space. My room is in the basement, so as you can see, it's an unfinished basement, cement walls, bare ceiling, concrete floor. I do have some creature comforts down here, carpet, a little roll-up rug, rocking chair to make it a little more comfortable and homey. The fireplace itself was from the 50s, and I believe they used to light fires in the basement and it would heat up the entire brickwork that runs through the whole house. We don't use that anymore, so I've just got some things down there, some candles for decoration, and then some storage bins that are under a sheet just to hide them. They have some artificial flowers in there that I don't use much and other floral arranging things that I don't use too much. So that's what's in there. Up here, I've got a mantle that I created just with a board and some chain that's hanging from the ceiling. I had some art pieces up here that were on display, and I'm redoing those, so that's not what it really looks like. Over here is my sewing desk. My machine's in the shop, so I will be getting back to that. Sewing supplies that are kind of a mess right now, but I'll get to those. Some backup scrapbook supplies that I don't use too often, but they're up there. I have some fine art supplies, so these are some little canvases, some mini stretched canvases, a few more canvas up here, a jewelry board. We do a little bit of jewelry making, so we do have that. Over here, some things that need stored. I have some lighting supplies because I'm redoing the lighting down here. It's a dark basement, needs more lighting. A bin of yarn for doing some crocheting. I do a little bit of that. These are the bins for gift wrapping, so some reusable gift bags, ribbons, bows, things like that. Space heater, because it does get cold in the basement. I use a space heater. My husband's been working down here for years, so he gets really cold. Over here are my IKEA shelves. A lot of people use these. They're fabulous. I love them. I can, put various bins into each cube so that I can kind of keep my supplies separated. Up here I've got a few books and magazines. This side is just my personal journal scrapbooks. My kids' scrapbooks live other places in the house, so this stuff down here is just my stuff. A few bins of supplies. I keep cards on hand for when I need to send out greeting cards. I did try selling cards for a while. That didn't work too well, so that bin needs cleaned out. A couple of project bins, jewelry making supplies. So that's what's up there. These are some project binders of photos and things that are waiting to be sorted through. This is needle felting supplies. I do like to experiment a lot with various craft materials, so I have some random bins of craft supplies throughout my space for just experimenting. These are my thickers. These are what I use mainly for my scrapbook titles. I do use very neutral colors, so lots of grays, blacks, and browns. That's some storage organizers that I don't use right now. These are some color supplies, so some chalks and some watercolor pencils. These are my embellishments that I use on a regular basis. I do keep some themed items, so very specific things like back to school and stuff like that goes in here. I used to have more, but I've pared it down to just the one binder. So these two binders here, this white one and the one to the right there, are very general supplies. So as I pull it out here, you can see what I've got in here. I've got some tags and some flair, some enamel dots, some bling, things like that in this one. And that other binder back up there on the right says themes, but it's not. It's chipboard and die cuts and stickers, and so just more general stuff. Down here are mostly ink supplies. I am redoing this section too. You can see those sticker labels down there. As I'm redoing it, those labels won't come off, and it's leaving a mess that I need to clean up. So in here is mixed media now instead of ink pads. I don't use it a lot, but every once in a while, I like that. Here's how I store my photopolymer stamps and my thin die cut materials. Lots of people do this, so these storage systems work really well for me. I do have a collection of wood-mounted stamps in here, so you can see those. Down there, I've got this little storage binder that I've used I work with kids and kids crafting every once in a while. I've taught a crafting class, card making class with kids, and this binder helped keep things organized for them, so that's why that one's there. This next shelf up here is kind of oversized stamp supplies in the front, and then in the back is the manual die cutting dies. Here are extra page protectors in a binder, my color charts for my watercolors and Copics and ink pads, that kind of thing. So that's all my color charts for when I need to. I keep the instructions for various equipment in here in case I need to look up something. Down here are these bins that I really love. I came across this storage system by accident, and I'll go more into it later. So these bins I discovered, even though they're office supply bins, they work really well for my 12 by 12 paper storage inside the IKEA cubes. So that's cardstock, and over here are various paper pads. So I do keep a collection of paper pads because they coordinate nicely. Oh, and back in there, I've got some specialty materials, so foil sheets, mulberry sheets, vellum sheets, things like that are also stored in the cardstock. These are my individual sheets of pattern paper, and I keep these organized by patterns mostly. So I'll have grid patterns, floral patterns, stripe patterns, polka dot patterns, things with moods to them, so things that are grungy, things that are more masculine, because that's how I tend to scrap, is by those categories. Over here is my 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I used mostly Stampin' Up! Products for a long time, so these bins are all organized based on the Stampin' Up! Color system. And then moving over to the corner in between the two shelves has tall items, so tall wrapping paper, and my tripod for my camera, so things that don't fit anywhere else, and this is kind of dead space back there anyway. And then up here I've got my spray box, so when I'm doing misting and spraying, just a couple of extra bins up there. These are sheet products, so lamination sheets, some extra photo sheet protectors, things like that. Over here is my fine art supplies. I do a little bit of fine art, not a lot, mostly watercolor because that's what I like. And I've got them set up in bins to take with me to go. I also do a little bit of drawing and sketching, so that's in here. And I do a little bit of stamp carving, so that stuff is also in here. And like I said, I like to take it to go with me when I've got kids stuff going on. Down here I've got my envelopes for mailing card supplies, sticker sheets, 8.5 by 11 sticker sheets, printer materials. These are foam pads for converting wood-mounted blocks to work with the cling blocks. And then my watercolor papers, cork board, and chipboard. This bin is full of 8.5 by 11 white cardstock. I mainly use white cardstock up there, and then I've got a bin for using in the printer for when my kids need to print. These are the binders that I reach for on a regular basis, small size alphabets, mostly to go with my thickers, because I like to mix and match my fonts when I'm making titles. So that's my project binder, which I'll go more into in another video. That's where I keep the photos that I'm actively working on. Over here is printer supplies. I do print my photos from home because I find it more convenient. So I've got inks for the printer, photo paper for the printer, things like that. And down here I've got some oversized tools, a bookbinding tool, some We Are Memory Keeper punch boards. So that's just a bin of chunky tools. Over here is my backup supply bin. So I keep extra cleaning supplies, extra markers, extra glue, so as soon as I run out of something, I pull it out of here and then I restock this bin, so I never am without these things. This is a bin that I use for storing kits that I'm not currently working with. These are my mats for my electronic die cutting machine, and I just got a Cricut Maker, so I'm going to be experimenting more with that, especially with foam, because I like the idea of being able to cut my own foam letters and not being stuck with extra thicker letters that I don't need or running out. This is just our home printer, all our everyday printing. This is what my photos are printed on. I keep a glass mat here for the heat tool. This is the lamination machine for general household lamination and also for doing some foiling. My big paper cutter, my little one that gets moved around from table to table as I'm working. These are more supplies that I keep at hand when I'm scrapbooking, so very scrapbooking specific and not necessarily card making specific. Some markers, some active projects, some things that need cleaned up, more storage supplies for the manual die cutter, which I keep right there, and then there's my electronic die cutters, and I've got some fabric there for some fabric projects that I'm going to try on the Cricut Maker. This is a board that I keep with things that make me happy, projects my kids have made, stuff like that. Over here were some art shelves for displaying things that make me happy. I've just got a few pieces up right now because I'm cleaning it up, and sometimes I'll just tuck pattern paper up there because I like it. And then this is my filming zone where I'll be doing more project filming to bring you videos. I do have a little TV down here for me or the kids to watch TV while I'm working. I keep on my desk these bins of supplies that I reach for every single time I make a project. So my scissors, my glue gun, which I love, my ATG, foam dots. I always have a cup of something warm because it is cold in the basement. And then my computer is usually down here with me because of the electronic die cutting machines. And then here's a look from the side of my space. It's a U-shaped, so that chair is great for rolling around between spaces as I'm working. And then I've got more storage under here. These are the lids from those paper storage bins. They don't fit in the IKEA shelves, so I use them for my active kits. So these are the kits that I'm actually using and pulling things from. And then I do use a lot of wood veneer, so I've got that stored in here. And then this drawer and the next drawer down, this one here, are things that I'm actually not using very much, so I'm going to clear those out and redo those bins and move things over that I am using more often, so they're more convenient. A couple of tools here that I haven't used too much. I actually won that foiling tool there at a crop one year, and I really haven't used it too much, so I will pull that tool out at some point and show it to you and make a video and show it off. This is the tool that's used for heating up the sheet protectors to make pockets. And then some backup paper trimmer supplies, a crimper tool, a couple chunky things that don't fit other places. These are my color storage bins for things that I do use by color, so all the little bits and bobs that I add to my page. So I've got washi tape in there, I've got ribbon in there, I've got, not the enamel dots, sequins in there. So these are things that I do look for by color, and I do keep a couple of different color categories. And then that last one is just multicolored items, which are a little harder to store. Glue sticks for those chunky craft projects, heat embossing, paper quilling supplies. I use that mostly when I was teaching the kids card making class that I taught. Some ribbons and things that need sorted. These are all specialty materials for using with the die cutting machine, so both manual die cutting machine and the electronic die cutting machine. Tools for the die cutters. My alcohol inks live here because they didn't fit anywhere else. More materials for the die cutting machine, so cork and foam and things like that. I've got my foil sheets down here for using with the lamination foil technique, and vinyl for the die cutter. Back there is just the old Cricut supplies from when they used to be on manual cartridges. Like I said, I upgraded to the Cricut Maker recently, so I'm going to be doing more videos on that. Here's more supplies that I reach for on a regular basis. I've got my stamp positioning tool, the glues that I use, often roller stamps, more roller stamps, and then my acrylic blocks, a tool that I don't use much, but I might show that one to you in a later video. And then a little bit chunkier tools, so staplers, hole punches, my brayers down here. I do use that one quite a bit, so you can see it's well loved. And then all my misting supplies. I used to use these more than I do now, but I really do like mist, so I'll probably pull those out more often. Some paint daubers, which I didn't end up liking very well and don't use very often, but those are still in there. And these are my general pens that I use on a regular basis, so various journaling pens and markers, a little bit of Wink of Stella, some permanent pens back there, some micron pens for drawing. And then way in the back is just, office supplies that I don't need to reach for too often, but I want around. These do lift up. There is a little more storage underneath. These are the inks that I reach for on a regular basis when I'm making projects. And then down here is a mixed media and a little bit of fine art supplies. Clean up material is very important when you're doing mixed media. It's paintbrushes, palettes, Q-tips, all good mixed media. There's a punch set back there because these two drawers down here is where I store my punches, and they were too full, so I had to move that punch set up. And all this is IKEA storage, and it works out really well for small punches and then fitting the bigger punches down below. And then, of course, more punches, and then the stuff in the back tends not to be used very often, and it shifts it way in the back. Painting supplies that I do craft projects with my kids. Some more stamps back there. Those were from when I was teaching kids card making. I'm taking a break this year from 4 years of teaching that class. And then those bins back there were what I used to take with me to that class to help keep the kids organized. So that is my space. Thank you for joining me today.